Hello, 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 and welcome to the Mo Money Podcast, episode 126, and another of my listener series episodes. I am so excited to be back with some more listener series episodes, so I know you're going to love this one. This one, I chat with Sylvia Bourgeois, and you're just going to love it because she has a great personal finance story that she was, willing to share with you. And of course, if you're listening right now, you're like, you mean people can get on your podcast and share their story with you and to everyone else who's listening? Yeah, that is a thing that you can do. Anybody who is open to letting lots of people hear your story and taking some time to chat with me. And I promise I'm not scary. It's actually a lot of fun. So if you wanted to do that, look more into that, highly recommend you go to the show notes at jessicamorehouse.com/126 to find out more details on how to get in touch with me and see if you can get on the show. Now, before I get to that interview with Sylvia, here are some words about this episode's sponsor. Support for this episode comes from Credit Card Genius, the only tool that compares over 50 features of 150 Canadian credit cards, using math-based ratings and rankings that respond to your needs instantly. Now, you can get rewarded faster without all of the headache. Visit creditcardgenius.ca to learn more. Once again, that's creditcardgenius.ca. Thank you, Sylvia, for joining me on the show. I'm excited to chat.
Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, and you're from Vancouver, my hometown, right?
Yeah, I'm not from Vancouver.
You
but
live in Vancouver.
I live in North Vancouver now. Mm-hmm. I'm actually from the northern tip of Vancouver Island.
Oh, nice.
Outside of a town called Barbigneau. I grew up in a camp town called Kokish and then Hyde Creek, which is sort of like a rural area. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Very nice. Love BC. I miss it all the time. Though I feel like you've definitely gotten some terrible weather this winter, just like constant rain. Yeah, so don't miss that.
It has its moments. But North Van is, although it rains, we all say that, but at least a sunny day here is, it's sunny from 5 a.m. until 10 at night kind of thing. Whereas in my hometown, a sunny day is when the sun comes out for like 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh, no way. Yeah, I don't think I could deal with that.
You don't realize that that's what it's like until you leave. So
no, for sure. You're just used to what you're used to. So thank you for emailing me, and kind of pitching your story to be on my show. I absolutely loved your story, so I'm excited to get into it. So what I kind of gathered from your email is, kind of what a message that you really want to get out based on your experience is that, especially people, maybe in high school thinking about what they want to do with their careers, it does seem kind of like we're all told, the one route to success is university. That is how you, are able to secure a good job, a good salary, which is kind of untrue. Being a millennial who went to university and it wasn't as easy as they all said, you took a different route and, kind of proved that theory wrong. So I'd love to kind of chat about how you said that you excelled in high school, but you decided not to go to university. I'd love to kind of pick up there and find out why did you make that choice?
I guess a number of things. I mean, I did very well at school. I was always, it agrees with me.
Yeah.
That way. I finished high school at 17. I had skipped a grade somewhere in there. And yeah, the idea of going for another 4 years of school didn't appeal to me as a first step. I also had some stuff going on at home. My dad really wanted me to stay and take over or join him in his business, which would not have, included going to post-secondary at all, or at least not at that time. And part of that argument, the financial support for going to school was withdrawn, let's put it. So when I looked at my options, I was kind of like, 4 years isn't going to happen. It was actually my mom, I think, there wasn't a lot of online stuff then. It was my mom who found the building course at BCIT that I ultimately ended up going to. And I'd always loved doing stuff with my hands. When I was 5 years old, I asked for wood for Christmas, right? So I wanted to build stuff for my dolls or whatever. And we'd always, I had just finished kind of with my sister and brother building a house across the street. My dad would come home after work and show me what to do, and then we'd go and work on it until we were done or got stuck or whatever. So I had a lot of experience, and I knew that I liked that kind of stuff. It's not so much the building, it's the seeing what you do every day, like having something physical that is either, that is getting done, and not just moving paper around. So when I read the course outline at BCIT, I was just like, yeah, I'm going there. Like it was a no-brainer for me. And it turned out to be a really good decision all around. Like it was a great experience.
So was it just a year program, or how long did it take?
It was a 2-year diploma program at that time. I believe now it's a 4-year program actually there. And they're trying to get a little bit more, almost like a degree going there.
Right.
But I know there's still certificate options there. And BCIT, it's a technical school. The demographics quite a bit different. I was the youngest by far in my class, and the average age was probably closer to 35. Like there's a lot of people coming in with a ton of experience, which also makes for an interesting experience. It's more real life. Like it's more closer to what you end up finding in the work world, right?
Exactly.
Like there's people that have a ton of experience, and then there's people like me that came straight out of high school and still remember how to do the math. So you help each other, right?
Yeah. So what exactly did you study in that program?
So building technology is essentially a project management course is what it comes down to. It had 2 streams. The first year was the same for everybody. And then you had to pick either going into building economics, which was more project management, or building architectural or design. I can't remember what the name of it was. And that was more for people going towards interior design or maybe working for an architect, that kind of thing. So I took the economics side of it. So a lot of courses, along with the physics and the math and the civil and structural type classes, there was also contracts. Probably the most useful course I ever took was technical communications. We all hated it, and it's probably the thing I use the most, like every day of my life now, right? So, so it was, and a lot of drawing and design as well. And people came out of it doing all kinds of different things. I ended up going towards like the subcontractor route, so like very specialized. My husband, who I met at school, I had a good chance of that. Like it was, I think, 6 women and 84 men or something.
Oh, that's funny.
If you want to meet a guy, go to building tech. If you want to meet a girl, go take nursing at BCIT.
That's amazing.
So that's kind of the direction that if you use all of your skills, you're moving into project management or project coordination for a general contractor who does some type of building, right? That's what the course was geared towards.
Absolutely. So what was your kind of, once you finished school, I'm so curious with that because I really don't know anything about going into the trades. Is it similar to like you finish, school, you get your certificate? How do you find your first job?
Oh, that's always the trick, isn't it? Sometimes I feel like that's the only reason you go to school. And if that's the only reason you go to school, then why not make it shorter?
Exactly.
So I got my first job just by applying to job postings, honestly. And my very first job was not what I wanted to do, but it was on site, and it was a site clerking position. So really, they were building what I call the new library, which is no longer so new, but the library in downtown Vancouver. And there was all kinds of trades working on that. And I worked for an electrical contractor at the time. So I was in their site office. I managed all of their paper is what I did. And it was good, but I kind of figured it out after about, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months. And I then was a little bit bored. And eventually the job ended when the work at the site was finished, when the building was done. And I phoned my husband. I'm like, oh, I got laid off. And he goes, oh, good. Because I've been complaining about that I wasn't kind of challenged anymore, right? Because I kind of figured it out. That was really just a paper. It was an admin job, but it was on a construction site. That's really what it was, right? Yeah,
you just kind of need to get your kind of experience out of school to kind of start yourself
and then after that, I put some feelers out to some people that I knew through. I can't remember exactly how it went, but some people that I knew through going to school at BCIT who had landed jobs at different places. And the one guy was working for an excavation and shoring company, and they were looking for some field personnel. So he kind of got me in contact with the guy that ended up hiring me and was sort of my mentor for a good 10 years probably or more. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Nice.
When I started working in the excavation and shoring world, which probably most people don't know what it is.
No, I have no idea what that is.
So in downtown Vancouver, if a high rise goes in, there's usually 3-6 levels of parkade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to dig the hole for the parkade, you can't slope because you've got roads all around. So you need to dig vertically. So the vertical concrete or shotcrete that's on the walls is what I do now for a living. Or what I manage. I manage a company that does that. So it involves drilling anchors, like vertical or horizontal anchors, tieback anchors into underneath the roads on all four sides. And then you trim the slopes vertical in panels, and you shoot concrete onto the wall, which is called shotcrete. And that's what it's basically a temporary excavation, which the builders then come in and build the building inside of. If that makes any sense.
That's interesting. I've definitely walked by some sites in Vancouver and it's just this big hole and you're like, what's that about? How are they gonna it's just kind of a big mystery to me how these things work. So that's thanks for illuminating me. One thing that I forgot to
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. No, I just remembered. One thing I remember you did email me, though, was, making that choice to go to BCIT to do this kind of non-traditional career, especially as a woman. You also were able to do it without getting yourself into debt, which is also sort of an anomaly.
So that I left, I had $5,200 of babysitting money in my bank account when I left home. Not just babysitting money. I also worked a fair bit. My dad, he was a road builder, so he had heavy equipment. So I used to run dump trucks and excavators and things like that for him as well, and worked on a sawmill for him and those kinds of things. But they were kind of limited to, I was a high school student, so they're limited to after school and weekends and summers, right? So that was my entire life savings that I left home with. And I did get a scholarship, an entrance scholarship into BCIT.
Oh, that's helpful.
Which was a fair chunk. I think it was $10,000. So
that
helped.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that helped a lot for the first. So the first year I stayed in residence. I only had one summer between the 2 years of school, and I got a summer job doing some drafting for an architect out in the valley. Which was great, except I had to buy a car, so that was a big first-time thing for me.
Definitely.
A used car, of course, with cash.
Nice.
And then the second year at BCIT, I also stayed in residence, but I applied for a job as a residence advisor. So they have sort of apartment-style houses there where there's 48 people in a house, 12 people per unit, and then there's one residence advisor for those 48 people, and they have you get an apartment that you don't have to pay for, essentially. So you have a bunch of duties to do, and you don't get paid anything, but you get to live for free. So that was the other big help.
Definitely. Interesting. Yeah.
And then I was just frugal. I wouldn't take the bus to save the $1.50. That's just how I was.
That sounds like me.
Well, I know. And I have to say I've lost some of that now.
Yeah.
We're paying for it, but we're back on that track a little bit now. But anyways, so then, and then I think the second year I also did quite well. There was some kind of financial award. I should know this, but I don't remember, for getting top marks on the first year of BCIT. So, and I managed to do that too. I worked hard at that. I knew I needed to get that.
Yeah.
In order to keep going to school, because I didn't have the money otherwise. So that was sort of my motivation to put in all my time into work. So
absolutely, definitely pays to excel at school. I feel like as simple and as obvious as that is, a lot of people, even when I was in university, I never thought then when I was in university to even try to get some of these financial grants or bursaries or awards or anything like that. I got some, an entrance scholarship, like yourself, that paid for my first year. But after that, I just I didn't even really know when you're in school there were things available.
You get so busy, right?
Yeah, you get too busy.
And I mean, I think if my parents were paying for my school, I probably wouldn't have looked
Yeah.
around so much, honestly. I mean, it was desperation that made me look.
That's true. That is always sort of helpful.
Yeah, it does. It's not a bad way to learn, right?
Yeah.
It's a sink or swim kind of thing.
So you,
and then the year after we graduated, my husband and I actually, well, he's my husband now, but he was my boyfriend at the time. We both applied to do the residence advisor position as a couple, even though we weren't going to school there anymore. So that really helped take the pressure off when we finished school.
Nice.
Because he didn't find work right away, and so
that's awesome. That's amazing.
It wasn't an ideal kind of place to live, but it was perfect. I mean, again, rent free. Come on.
Exactly, rent free. When you're just starting out after school, you got to do what you got to do. You know.
Yeah, it took a lot of pressure off, kind of making decisions and choices for sure.
Absolutely. So, since you do currently live in Vancouver, specifically North Van, which is like more expensive than Vancouver, I know one of the things that you told me was you are a homeowner, you own a home in North Van, and you're really close to paying it off, which is also a miracle. Like that is unheard of for people in Vancouver. They're just like buried in debt. And it's your house, obviously being in Vancouver, is worth a pretty penny now. Is that because you bought early? Like, when did you buy your house?
I think so. I mean, we actually bought a townhouse in North Van before we even got married, which is not what you're supposed to do. But anyways, we did. we were sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did that. That was probably it would have been like 97. So that's almost 20 years ago now. Yeah. So I get, geez Louise, eh?
Yeah. Time flies, right?
It does. Yeah. So that would be why, right? And then about 13 years ago now, we moved up to a house. And yeah, I mean, housing has probably doubled since then for sure, but it was still a $400,000 plus mortgage at that time, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the things that my husband and I both kind of agree on is whenever there was extra money, that's where it goes towards the mortgage. We don't really buy into it's low interest rates and yada yada. We just want it gone.
You just want it gone, especially when you're only, like you said, 5 years out, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think we can do it. I think we can do it.
That's amazing. So I'm curious, since, your house has increased in value so much and you're so close to being debt free, will you just continue to live in that house, or will you make the decision? Yes. Yeah. You're not going to sell and maybe move someplace else?
We're using it to its fullest right now with two teenage boys. But one's going off to university next year. So there's an empty room, right? The other one will follow, I'm sure, in 3 or 4 years. And there's another empty room. We're definitely not upgrading. And that was
right.
And that's one of the things that we did right is, whatever, you go to the bank and they're like, oh, but you could do this. It's like, yeah, no.
Exactly.
So saying no to that additional credit that they would give you as your salary increases or your income increases, that was one of the things I think that we did right for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Because of course, every time you go to the bank, they're like, oh, I mean, this happens to me all the time. Every time I go to the bank, here's a line of credit or this and that. I'm like, I don't want that or need that. But it's because I'm aware of kind of the repercussions. If you say yes, you may kind of just slide into debt without really realizing it. But lots of people don't. They just think they're being, oh, that person's so helpful. How nice. I got something for free.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you can very quickly go backwards too, right? Like, I mean, with the housing prices going up, you can, refinance and kind of feel like you're doing okay, but really you're going backwards if you're taking equity out, right? So,
exactly.
And I know I have a lot of peers that have done that, and I just look and go, oh, I'm just glad we haven't had to do that.
So you've definitely done a lot of things right when it comes to your finances, and lots of them are just very easy things that have like a big impact, it seems. You lived, within your means, you were frugal, you were able to get free rent while in school. But what are some of the things I would love to know, that maybe some kind of money mistakes that you've made that you have learned from, that maybe some people can learn from too? I think they're always helpful when people share. I mean, everyone has money mistakes. Everyone makes these things,
here's one. don't go to a home renovation show after you've had a bunch of drinks with your husband, because you might accidentally buy a hot tub and put $1,000 down, and guess what? We still don't have a hot tub. So.
No.
There's my biggest one.
Oh my gosh.
That is absolutely the biggest one.
So wait, so you put a down payment on a hot tub, and you still haven't gotten it?
No, and we never will. Like, I mean, it's done and gone. Like, I was just like, okay, that's the lesson. Because I tried to get it back, but what they do is they give, most of that is a commission for the salesman, right? So that's how that works. And it wasn't that we didn't think we were going to get it. It was just that, yes, we kind of came, let me put it another way. It wasn't a total impulse. Mm-hmm. It was something we had been talking about. Yeah. But a few different things happened, and, money situation changed. And we were like, yeah, no, like we're not going to spend another $8,000 and do that. Mm-hmm. That's not where our priority is right now. So that's probably the biggest one where it's like total cash out. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we've made other ones that have cost us equal amounts of money, but not in such a sort of one single chunk, total embarrassing story kind of way.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's even though you didn't even get your hot tub, the people that I do that have hot tubs, they also regret having them, because just the maintenance alone is so expensive. I mean, I love good hot tub, but I don't think I'll ever own it. I will definitely go to a place to enjoy it.
Can go to.
I know.
Yeah. So
I know.
So that was definitely one. And then, honestly, just in the last few years, we've been doing very well. We've had some, we both run work as consultants or contractors. Now we kind of run our own. We work by the hour basically for different clients, and we have been doing very, very well. And honestly, we kind of took our eye off the ball, right? We used to do sort of, I call them annual financial family meetings, right? With minutes and everything.
Oh, wow.
Used to laugh at me, but it was a good thing just to sit down, because I do the money in the family, right? Yep. And, he kind of, he always jokes he has no idea what he spends on anything, and it doesn't matter because I look after it all. And that was sort of part of our wedding vows. I would take care of that side of things, but he still needs to know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of be involved. And so yeah, we've as just what I mean by taking our eye off the ball, we've done things like trips and vacations and some big purchases, like a car, and recreational stuff that I'm not sorry that we bought them, because we're definitely in a position to have them all paid off here in the next 6 months, which is my what I'm currently working on. But I think if we had been as attuned to the ins and outs of what's going on, just being more mindful about where the money was going. If we were being as mindful about where the money was going at that time as we are right now, since sort of the beginning of January, when I kind of raised the alarm bells, I don't know that we would not have made those decisions, but I think there are other things that we would have taken off the list of things to buy, and some of the smaller stuff, and just wouldn't quite be where we are right now. So
I agree with you.
I think sometimes, that's the same way as, we used to, when we got a raise, we would save that money. And then you get to a point where every bit of extra money, like once you have your mortgage and your utilities and everything else and a certain amount for food coming into the house, everything you get on top of that is kind of gravy, right? Like it's kind of play money, because there isn't anything else that needs your attention. And maybe we played a little bit hard in the last 3 or 4 years, but on the flip side, it's also been a wonderful time for our family, right? Like I said, we have one moving out. So those activities, those memories, that together time, I wouldn't necessarily trade that for anything.
And I think the important thing is you realized you need to kind of switch gears a bit. And I think that's the important thing. It's like, I think we've been going a little crazy, a little overboard. We need to fix it. Most people never get to that point that they realize this until it's too late.
Yeah. And again, we're blessed with a healthy income. So as long as we direct it into the right places, we haven't dug ourselves a hole that we can't fix. So
absolutely.
But yeah, definitely if we kept going without recognizing it, that would be a different story. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for chatting with me. Before we kind of end things, I always like to ask, especially my listeners, what's kind of one kind of nugget they would love other listeners listening right now to take away from this? Like, what is something that you've learned along the way or that you've done that has really worked for you, that has really kind of changed the game for you financially?
Well, I think actually it goes right back to the beginning of our discussion. I didn't realize it at the time, but number one, going into the building kind of world was something that I was obviously passionate about right from a very young age. Mm-hmm. It's just something that I like. I love it. Mm-hmm. And the idea of not needing that university degree, we really need to talk about that more as a complete society. You know, we need little girls. Like, I have this great photo of my one steel toe boot and one red high heel in the back of my car. And there was actually this old, it was a grandfather with his young daughter who walked by, and he just looked at me and he said, you know, that's quite the change, or that's quite the transformation or the difference. And I got into quite a conversation with them. And I was actually talking to the little girl, because that's who we need to say to them. It's like, you know, there is so much out there. Yeah. So much work. Everything that gets built, everything that gets done, every single thing you consume or take into your house is built or made by somebody. And these are all jobs that our teachers and school counselors don't know about. Yeah. They just don't. They think they do, but they don't. Mm-hmm. So for parents, you know, think about what your kids love to do. If they're Lego people, then let's look at some of the building stuff, right? You don't need to be super bright to go into trades, but you also don't want to cross it off your list if you are good academically, right? Yes. For me, I rose up the ranks at record speed because when someone gave me a budget, I understood how to do the math for productions, right? I understood how to figure out how many trucks per hour I needed to get out of the hole in order to get so many cubic meters over to the barge. Like, I could do that math. And so very soon they wanted me in the office, and that's where I did that reluctantly. Eventually, I really wanted to be in the field. And I always, it's not a super politically correct term, but I'm a smart fish in a dumb pool. I wouldn't be the top lawyer or top brain surgeon or top rocket scientist, but very often in construction, I am one of the smarter people out there. And it gives me the opportunity to rise up. It gives me the opportunity now to run a business, right? So to get into a trade that you think you might be interested in, or that you have an affinity to, or that you're drawn towards for some reason or another, it doesn't mean that you keep doing that work necessarily. Yeah. You may end up running the business that does that work, right? And the best business owners are the ones that have that background, right? Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to run an electrical company, it helps if you are an electrician, not just an MBA. Because you always have fights otherwise. So I wish we would talk about it more, and I don't know how to get that word out. It needs to happen way earlier, right? It can't be happening in grade 10, 11, 12 in career choices or whatever. Like, there needs to be examples at age 5, 6, 7, 8 in elementary school for the kids and for the parents, right? So the parents aren't scared when their kid says, I want to be a baker, right? Exactly. Absolutely. There are so many jobs. It shouldn't scare a parent. It should be like, excellent, go do that. Yeah, go do your passion. Exactly. No, figure it out and you will excel. There is not enough of us doing that, right? Yeah, so, no, I agree. And it's, I totally had the misconception when I was in high school that the only route was university, because and trades were, I knew was mainly, male oriented, that those were kind of like the people that got those jobs. And I didn't have an example of anyone like me who would do that. And maybe if I did, maybe I would have, it would have nice to know that was an option. So I'm so glad that you took the time to chat with me. Especially the open-ended ones too, right? Like, I mean, there's nursing, which always ends up in the same place. Yeah. Lab technician ends up in the same place, but then there's these broader ones, right? Like design and building and whatever, where people from our class went into all kinds of different positions, right? Like, it's the job description isn't single. So absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Sylvia, for
There's
joining
my one
me.
thing.
I loved it. It was perfect. It was the perfect way to kind of wrap everything up. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
No problem. It was very fun. Take care.
And that was episode 126 of the Mo Money Podcast with my listener series guest, Sylvia Bourgeois from Vancouver. And it was such a blast chatting with her. But if you're listening and you're like, hey, I want to do what Sylvia did and get on your show and share my story, well, you can. Go to the show notes at jessicamorehouse.com/126. And there's going to be some details in there on how to get in touch with me to become a future listener series guest yourself. Now, before I wrap this episode up, there's a few important words I want to share about this episode's sponsor. A big thank you to Credit Card Genius for supporting the Mo Money podcast. If you're not aware, they are the only tool that compares over 50 features of 150 Canadian credit cards by using math-based ratings and rankings that respond to your needs instantly. Now you can get rewarded faster without all the headache. If you want to find the best credit card for you, make sure to check out creditcardgenius.ca to learn more. Once again, visit creditcardgenius.ca to learn more. All right. So thanks again for listening. As a friendly reminder, I, throughout this whole season, am doing a contest where it's super easy. You can potentially win a $25 Amazon gift card if you leave me an iTunes review. If you check out the show notes, jessicamorehouse.com/126, there will be full contest details on how to enter. But I am giving away one gift card in November this month and another one in December. So if you enter in November and you don't win, you're still eligible to win in December. So 2 times to win. So make sure to check out the show notes, jessicamorehouse.com/126 for full contest details. Okay, that is it for me for this lovely Thursday day. But I will see you back here next Wednesday for a fresh new episode that you are going to love, I promise. Peace.